week. All right, hey, before we get started, I have two things to go over. First up, tonight we need to give some honor. Why do I cry about everything? Hold on. We have to give some honor where honor is due, okay? We have youth ministry legends. 14 years? 14-year senior adult leaders. They've been in here for 14 years. They were my adult leaders when I was in the youth group. They are stepping down next week as their last night in youth. So, give a big round of applause to Sean and Wendy Grisham. We're going to miss you guys so much. I'm not going to wait till their last night next week. That way you guys can all give them hugs and tell them they need to stay, okay? But they're not going anywhere. They're going to cross the street for a little bit, but they'll be back because, come on, we're awesome, you know? So, Sean and Wendy, we love you guys, and that's all I'm going to say. Hey, in 2 weeks, everyone say 2 weeks, we have our Welcome Summer Party, all right? Welcome Summer Party. In previous years, we've done our Welcome Summer Luau. We're going to change things up a little bit this year. So, 2 weeks, Welcome Summer Party. This is what you guys need to know. We are going to have theme rooms. So each kind of room is going to be a different party per se, okay? So like back in the corner room, we're going to have a fiesta going on. We're going to have a taco and nacho bar. Piñatas going all night, filled with gift cards. It's going to be a blast. In the middle room in the back, it's going to be a gamer room. We're having PlayStations and Xboxes and all types of games, junk food, Mountain Dew, and chips are going to be in there. A lot of fun stuff. Back here in the side room, where the ping pong table and stuff is currently, we are going to have, remind me, Dawn. We changed it. Oh, we're going to have a Western room, okay? Western room, we're going to have cobblers, desserts, cherry cobblers, peach cobblers. I remembered what it was. A cool photo opportunity and some cowboy stuff in there. Right here in the front of the stage, we're renting 2 mobile escape rooms, okay? So there are going to be 2 escape rooms, 2 different themes that you can do. You have a 15-minute time limit, teams of 6. You can go through both escape rooms, different fun stuff. And this is what you'll need to know too. We are going to have a 6-person per team dodgeball tournament, okay? So you can get 6 of your friends, sign up for the dodgeball tournament. First place will get $600 cash, okay? First place gets $600. It is free to enter. So tell your friends at school to enter the dodgeball tournament. That'll be out in the field going on the whole night, okay? So teams of 6, sign up, link in our bio on Instagram. If you are an individual and you want to be assigned to a team, there's an individual sign up as well, and we'll put all the individuals on teams together, okay? So, sign up for the summer nights, the summer night dodgeball tournament in 2 weeks, and we're going to have a lot of fun stuff, food, fun, and a lot of giveaways. So come, Welcome Summer Party, May 24th. May 24th. Hey, tonight, we are going to be reading a little bit out of 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians. This is a memory verse. If you wanted to you want to memorize a verse this week, give me that first verse, Asher. 1 Corinthians 6:18. Hey, let's read it together. All right, so everyone read it with me. Flee from sexual... Come on, read it like you mean it, all right? Come on. Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body. But whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Very good. Father, we pray tonight that your presence would be in this place as we look into your word, that students' hearts would be open for the change that you want them to make. Lord, that you begin to give them direction on what they need to do to make those changes. So in your name we pray. Everyone said? Hey, it's no secret that we live in a culture, we live in a society that questions a lot of things when it comes to sexuality. When it comes to sexuality, gender, you guys are bombarded by this every day in media and at school, maybe with your siblings, with your parents. We live in a culture that challenges biblical sexuality, and we live in a culture that encourages a lot of different things. And so it's no no secret. And I can try to answer some common questions tonight that you guys have when it comes to sexuality and what the Bible says, and I probably will. But understand, guys, there's answering the questions you have, then there's really addressing the struggle that you're going through. Because I imagine everyone in here is going through a struggle when it comes to this topic. What I want you to understand tonight, what I understand tonight, is that when it comes to this topic, I know all of us are on different levels. We got seniors, we got sixth graders. We got adult seniors, we have high school seniors. Sorry, Sean, I'm just joking. Everyone's on their own level. Okay, and we're going to talk to you tonight about this topic. What I'm asking is for everyone to be mature, everyone to laugh when it's appropriate to laugh, but just every time Riley says sex, don't just be like, hee hee hee, because it's a serious topic, and so buckle up. I'd appreciate if you're off your phones, because I believe God has a word for each and every one of us tonight when it comes to this topic, and I believe that God is going to speak to you guys on your level. On the level you're at, whether it's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade, or you've been married for a long time. I believe God's going to speak to you tonight as we talk about this topic. It says, flee from sexual morality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. When I say tonight that we're going to talk about sexuality, that encompasses a very, very large topic. It's hard. It's a difficult topic to talk about, but it's really, we make it difficult is what I find. When we look into God's word and what God says about sexuality, it is pretty straightforward when it comes to all things sexuality, whether it's gender, sexual orientation, pornography. Really, God's word is very simple and very clear about all the things that we seem to be confused about nowadays. Where sexuality has gotten complicated as humans have stepped in. It's where we, as humans, we make everything more complicated than it needs to be. Why is that? It's because when we step in because we feel a certain way, instead of looking inwardly at the problem that is in us, we look outward and try to justify that there really isn't anything wrong because we don't want to change. Where sexuality has gotten complicated, what you need to understand is that this is not a new strategy people have come up with. Instead of changing themselves, let's change everybody. You can go back and read in the Bible, and some of the oldest stories, even in secular text, and you see people had ungodly desires. Instead of changing themselves, they try to change the rules since the beginning of time. But biblically, sexuality is very, very quite simple. And I can come through and answer all your questions one by one. Can I be a Christian and be a homosexual? Can I be born the wrong sex? What's the big deal about having sex before I'm married? Can I live together before I'm married with someone? I can come through and answer all these questions, but really, if you just read God's plan in Genesis 2, when he set up humans, he set us up, when he created us and how he set us up, you can pretty much answer all these questions. Genesis chapter 2, verse 20 starts, so the man gave names to all the livestock. This is when God created the first man. His name was Adam. The birds of the sky and all the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. That seems like he was trying to find a suitable helper. He's like hanging out with the cow. He's like, hey, can you help me name these animals? The cow's just like, moo, and he's like, I got no one to help me, God. So then the Lord made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man and brought her to the man. The man said, whoa, man, you're hot. No, I'm just joking. The man said, this is now the bone of my bones and the flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Listen, any romantic relationship outside of one man being with one woman is not what God intended. It's very simple. Any sexual relationship outside of marriage that is one man and one woman is sin. It's not what God intended. Now, the basic premise, with this basic premise, it makes answering questions a lot easier. And you should be able to answer your questions on your own. I was going to answer some of them tonight, but I don't have time because I got some other stuff I want to talk about. But when you have questions like, can you be a homosexual and be a Christian? Can you be transgender, believe you're born the wrong gender? You can answer all these questions. Should you live with someone before you're married? Should you have sex with someone before you're married? Should you have sex with other people? Is polyamorous relationships, is that godly because we're married? Anything outside of one man, one woman, married, is not what God intended. It is sin. And you can answer all those questions for yourself. Paul, you guys have been hearing me talk about Paul a lot lately. Last time I preached, we talked about Paul setting sail to Rome and getting shipwrecked on the island, right? Well, Paul, he writes a letter to the church in Corinth. That's where we get the letter of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. And really, 1 Corinthians is a response to the letter that they wrote him first. The church at Corinth wrote Paul a letter with a bunch of questions, and he wrote a response letter answering all their questions. That's why when you read 1 Corinthians, at the beginning of every chapter, it says, now pertaining to, because he's answering their questions. Now pertaining about food sacrificed to idols. Now pertaining about sexual morality. He's answering their questions. So in 1 Corinthians, Paul talks about this. He says, 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 8 and 9 says this, now to the unmarried and the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I do. Now you can get lost right there because you're like, Paul, what are you talking about? Who doesn't want to be married? Who doesn't want to have a relationship with someone? You have to understand that Paul is just not suggesting this. Paul is speaking from experience. He's saying, as I do. He's speaking from experience, not theory. Most scholars believe Paul was married at one point because before he was saved, he was a Pharisee, and Pharisees were supposed to be married, and so they believed that his wife had passed away. But listen, Paul is saying from his experience is that singleness is not as strange as culture makes it out to be. Students, what Paul is saying is you can be successfully single. You can be successfully single. Paul's saying you don't have to have another person in your life to fulfill your purpose. He's saying, look at me, I'm Paul. I'm planting churches all over the Mediterranean Sea. I am writing letters to these churches. One day they'll become the Bible. I mean, who's accomplishing a greater purpose for Christ than Paul? And he's single doing it. You don't have to have someone, find a person to fulfill your purpose. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't fulfill your purpose until you have another person. You can be successfully single. He goes on to say, he says, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I do. But, verse 9, but, that's a big but, okay? Big buts in the Bible mean you need to pay attention. When you read a big but in the Bible, that means wake up. I'm about to tell you something important. But, if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. Everyone say burn. What we are asking here is this. What do I do with the fire that is inside of me? Whether married, single, engaged, it doesn't matter. What do you do with the passions that are inside of you that are hard to control? Okay, you ever set a fire and it got out of control and you realize this could have gotten out of control a lot faster? I can tell you stories. Listen, when I was like 5, or I was 4 and 5, I can't remember, I almost burned down our whole trailer park in Norman. I could tell you stories about how I caught our microwave on fire trying to microwave metal containers. I can tell you plenty of stories about fire, but the thing is about fire is it can get out of control fast. And Paul is comparing the passion inside of you, the sexual passion, the passion that God has given you to a fire. And what Paul is giving them is saying, hey, this is what you should do with the fire that is inside of you. The illustration Paul chooses to use is burning. He's saying these feelings for intimacy, it's like a fire within me. I'm burning with passion. What do I do about this? And there are 2 observations I make from this passage I want to share with you real quick. These are things that just really stuck out to me and really convicted me. And the first thing is this, is I see an oversimplified struggle. Or at least that's what it seems when you read it at first. When you first read it, it sounds so straightforward. Paul makes it sound so easy. But I know in my life it has not been easy. And I know from many, many conversations with you guys in here, it is not easy. He's saying if you have a passion that is hard to control, get married. He makes it seem so simple to get over the struggle. I mean, how many of you guys in here tomorrow can go get married? let's see. Ty and Asher, that's 2. Okay. And maybe a few others I can't see right now. Austin's 3. Okay. Stephanie, you can go get married. That's 4. Very few of us. It seems very simple. Paul, as a teenager, when you're reading this, he's saying, hey, if you can't control the passion, go get married. I feel like in church, a lot of times we oversimplify the struggle. Because we teach you, don't settle. Don't settle in your relationships for anyone. You need to find someone who's godly, hardworking, patient. You better not settle. But on the other side, we also say you better not sin. Don't settle. Don't sin. But in the middle, you're like, well, I'm struggling. Because I'm trying not to settle, but I'm also trying not to sin. And I'm in the middle, and I'm struggling between don't settle and don't sin, and I just want to give up. What's the struggle? Well, I feel like the struggle is this. In every movie I watch, in every song I listen to, and all the love stories about finding the one. And I feel like it's a lie culture has sold us that there's this one person for you and you got to find them. But Scripture does not teach us this, guys. The Bible's not concerned at all about you finding the one. It's about you becoming the one. Pastor Ryan used to always say, become the person you're looking for is looking for. You need to worry about you and becoming the one and less worried about finding the one. And Paul's not oversimplifying the struggle. Paul himself understands the struggle. In his next letter, he writes to the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, or as Donald Trump calls it, 2 Corinthians, okay? In chapter 11, verse 29, he's listing hardships that he has been through in his life to identify with the Corinthians. Paul is saying, hey, this stuff that you're asking about, I've struggled with it too. He says, who is weak? And I do not feel weak. Who is led to sin that I do not inwardly burn? Paul's using the same imagery of a fire, of a burning passion in 2 Corinthians, saying, I understand the struggle. He's saying, I know this struggle because I burn. He's saying, I don't want to oversimplify the struggle, but what you need to do, what you need to know is that you need to focus on being the right one. God will put you in the right place, and He will develop you into the right person He will put you in the right place if you develop into the right person and you develop the right passions in your life. God will help you find the one. Oversimplified struggles. The second observation I get from this passage is, and this is really what he talks about, I think a lot of it, is mismanaged passions. He's not saying get rid of the passion. God put the passion inside of you. God has put that fire inside of you. Paul says, listen, this passion, this sexual desire inside of us, it burns. It burns like a fire. And it is hard to control in my life and in my thoughts and in my mind. The interesting thing about fire is that a metaphor that is fire is a purifying agent. You can use fire to purify things. It purifies water. You ever see a forest a few years after a fire? It looks a lot better than it did usually before. Usually it caught on fire because it was getting out of control. It's more healthy than before the fire. What Paul is saying is that the desire inside of you is not dirty. It's a pure desire. God put it there. It was put there by God. There is nothing wrong with the passion that is inside you. It is when the passion gets misplaced that it can cause great destruction in your life. Misplaced passion, mismanaged passion. When I think of this, I think of Moses. Moses was a man of passion. God uses his passion to do great things when Moses learned how to control his passion. But Moses made a lot of mistakes mismanaging his passion. He learned it the hard way. It says this in the story of Moses, Exodus chapter 2. One day after Moses had grown up, hey Ty, go in the kitchen and find me a box of lighters, or a box of matches or a lighter or something. It says one day after Moses had grown up, Exodus chapter 2, verse 11, he went out to where his own people were, and he watched them at their hard labor. If you don't know anything about Moses, Moses was a Hebrew, but in Egypt, all the Hebrews were slaves. When Moses was born, his mom didn't want him to die because they were killing the firstborn of all the Hebrew at that time, and sent Moses up the river in a basket, and Pharaoh's daughter adopted Moses. So Moses was a Hebrew who grew up in the house of the Pharaoh. So he went out, enjoying his freedom, but was watching his people, the Hebrews, be slaves. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. So one day Moses is walking outside and he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. And Moses was born a Hebrew, but he was raised in Pharaoh's house. And he was conflicted. And this stirs up a passion in Moses. And Moses mismanages his passion. He says, looking this way and that and seeing no one. That's usually a pretty good indicator, students, that you're mismanaging your passion. When you're being sneaky and looking around to make sure no one knows, making sure mom and dad are asleep. It can be scary. The worship team's in here. Y'all can go ahead and come up. He says, the next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked one of them in the wrong, why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? I think I skipped something. Oh, sorry. He looked around, seeing no one. He killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Okay, so he mismanaged his passion. He killed a Hebrew. The next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? The man said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? You guys ever have someone call you out on something you did wrong that you thought you got away with? That's what happened to Moses. Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. You see, students, just because you hide something in the sand doesn't mean it'll go away. And there's a lot of things that you are doing because while you're mismanaging your passion that you think you're getting away with, but all it's going to do is going to come up again. It's going to come up in future relationships. It's going to come up in your future marriage. It's going to come up. Because you are not focusing on managing your passion correctly, you are mismanaging it and burying it in the sand. Do you know you guys can have the right passion but the wrong expression of that right passion? And what happens is it creates a terrible result in your life. The passion that God put inside of you, the one you feel burning for intimacy and relationship, that can help you have a godly marriage and an awesome relationship. But it can also give you great pain if it's not managed correctly. Sex is a good thing. Fire is a good thing. Fire brings warmth, fire purifies. Fire is a great thing. However, the passion needs perimeters if it's going to serve the correct purpose. What's gotten you in a lot of trouble and what got me in a lot of trouble in my life is I didn't have any perimeters for my passion. Instead of building purpose, I destroyed purpose. The perimeters for burning you feel, for the burning and the passion you feel is what? It's marriage between one man and one woman. And you know people like yourself or your parents or your friend who have acted on the passion outside of that biblical perimeter. And it has created great destruction in your life and in their marriage and in their relationships and in them. That's what happened to Moses. He had the right passion but the wrong expression. Imagine if I wanted to build a fire right here on the stage. It'd be pretty cool. But there's no parameters to keep it contained. I think it's obvious that everyone in this room understands the problem with me building a fire on the stage. We are indoors. The stage is made of wood. I know. I helped build it. It wouldn't be good. The problem isn't building the fire. The problem is building the fire in a place where there is nothing to contain it. And the same fire that warms your home in the winter is the same fire that burns the forest in Colorado and the hillsides in LA. The difference is that one of them isn't contained and one of them is. And the problem is when you release passions that are intended for marriage, outside of marriage, you are building a fire with nothing to contain it. Fire is a good thing. It's pure. It brings light and joy and happiness. But if you build it in the wrong place, it will burn your home to the ground. It is a mismanaged passion. It's a good thing in a bad place. And that's what your passion, and that's what that burning is you feel inside of you. I wonder how many of you would have avoided serious pains in your life if someone would have shown your parents that before they build a fire, you have to have somewhere to put it. The only relationship that is built to contain the kind of passion that God has put inside of you is a covenant relationship the Bible calls marriage. And if you build these fires in other relationships, it's going to spread where you didn't want it to. It's going to burn you. It's going to burn your future kids. Paul isn't saying put the fire out. He's saying you need to find a place to build the fire, find a place to put the passion. We have a passion for intimacy, but when you build the fire outside of marriage, you just get infatuation. That's what you get. Infatuation. You know what infatuation means? If you look it up in Latin, fake fire. For everything God creates, students, Satan creates a counterfeit to try to trick you. And he wants to lure you into ungodly relationships and tempt you with infatuation, but it is just fake fire. And it's going to do nothing but burn you. If you want to stand up tonight, I think a problem a lot of us have, it's a problem I had for a long time, is the reason some of us cannot control our passion. You cannot control the fire is because you walk around with the gas on all the time. Let me tell you what I mean. I remember growing up, we had a gas stove. Anyone in here have a gas stove? Anyone? A gas fireplace or something? First time cooking macaroni on the gas stove. I was like, I've seen my mom do this 100 times. I can do it. Growing up, my mom worked 3 jobs to take care of us. We had to make meals for ourselves. I can make this macaroni. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this fire started. I'm gonna turn on the gas and let it warm up. I'm going to let the gas warm up. So I turn on the gas, and I go to the cabinet, and I find the macaroni. I get the macaroni, put it on the countertop. And man, it's starting to smell funny in here. That's weird. I go down, open up the cabinet, get the thing, the pot, go over to the thing. I fill it with water. I take the pot, I put it on the stove. I think, oh, I need to put the macaroni. Do I put the macaroni in there while it boils, before it boils, after it boils? I don't know. I'm getting lightheaded. Why is it smelling so bad in my kitchen? And I struck the match to light the stove, and it about blew my face off because the gas had been running for 5 minutes. And some of you guys find it so hard to control the passion inside of you because you walk around with the gas going all the time. All your jokes are about sex. All the music you listen to is about sex. Everything, the jokes you say to your friends, the stuff you watch on Netflix, you're constantly letting the gas burn and the gas go. And the second there's a spark of fire inside of you towards someone, it blows you up because you're constantly letting the gas go. It's no wonder when there's a spark you catch on fire. It's no wonder you can't have a relationship that isn't based on sexual thoughts and sexual actions. It's because in your thoughts you are always running the gas. It's no wonder as soon as you get alone with someone of the opposite sex and there's a spark, the spark turns into a fire. Most of controlling the burning within you starts here. It starts in your mind. You got to shut the gas off. You have to. Every single one of us, bow your heads and close your eyes so you can focus on you guys, because tonight is the night you can make a decision to save your future marriage, to save future hurts, to save future pains, to save your future career, maybe your future family. Tonight is the night. And Satan is trying to trick you that you do not need to do something about it, that you can keep it buried in the sand like Moses because no one's going to know, but one day it is going to come up and destroy your reputation. Are you becoming the person you are looking for is looking for? Or are you too distracted on finding the one? I'm just going to say it. Most of y'all in here need to take a break from dating. And by break, I mean a long one. 90% of us in here, probably 99, you guys just shouldn't date at all. You need to focus on you, girl. Come on. Are you mismanaging your passions? Are you building fires where there is no perimeters? A lot of us in here have fake perimeters. It's like if I come over here, y'all look at me now. If I come over here and I get this thing, and you're like, oh, look at this perimeter I have in my relationship, Riley. We are still inside. I shouldn't light the fire even with this thing, because we are not in the place that should have fire. You have to have real perimeters. Real. Serious. You know where you're building fires. You know. You know where the temptation gets you. You know. Some of you guys are snapping people you shouldn't be snapping and sending things you shouldn't be sending. You're going places you shouldn't be going, and it's making you start fires that are going to burn you, and one day it will burn your family. Some of you guys, here's a piece of advice. Go to bed. Go to sleep. If I would have followed that rule, I'm going to go to sleep when I'm supposed to go to sleep, man. The things I would have saved in my life. But it's starting fires because of mismanaged passions. And probably all for us in here, including myself, you got to turn the gas off. You have to clean up your thought lives and your jokes, because all it is doing is running the gas. I believe something that I say tonight has applied to every single one of you. And if you do not respond to God tonight, I'm not trying to guilt you. I just know how important it is for you guys to get the fire and the passion inside of you under control. Are you becoming the person you're looking for is looking for? Are you mismanaging your passions? Or are you always running the gas? Probably more than one of these things. I don't know if y'all get it. Oh. Let's start the fire. You want to start the fire? Alex wants to. Anyone else? Let's start the fire. Let's start the fire. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Because a lot of you guys, listen to me. A lot of you guys have people in your life who you are watching them constantly start fires, and you say nothing. What kind of friend is that? Everyone else, are we all just going to let me burn this place down? Many of us in here need to step up and start holding each other accountable to controlling the fire that's inside of us. Tonight, this is what we're going to do. If you feel like you need to be better at becoming the one instead of worrying about finding the one, tonight, if you say to yourself, I'm always running the gas and I need to shut it off, I need more self-control, God, I need your help. If you are in here tonight and you're saying you are mismanaging your passions, you are building fires where there are no perimeters, and you need help from God, and tonight, if you simply say, I need to be a better friend and I need to step up and tell these fools to quit it because they are going to ruin their life. If you answer to any of those, would you just come forward and spend time with God? Get it under control tonight. Tonight can be the night. Tonight can be the night that changes your life. Seniors, I encourage you. You're about to go to college. Pretty much all accountability you have in your life is about to go out the window. Maybe you need to come down here and just pray for direction. God, help me find a church Help me find people who love me wherever I'm going to college, because I need the help. For everyone else, if you want to come pray for a friend that's down here, if you want to worship, that's fine. The band's going to play. But tonight is the night that you can learn to control the fire in you, or you can let it burn down your house.